Onyx say they're getting ready for 2026. What could this mean? I mean, it's very vague, it's very ambiguous. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, they not too long ago mentioned how they're getting XCN ready for 2026. Now, again, as we're approaching 2026, like I mentioned literally just now, it's kind of a bit ambiguous, right? It's a bit vague as to what they could mean by this, but there's something that I'm hypothetically kind of focusing on when it comes to this. Now, what is that? It is the mainnet of Goliath, which is its layer 1 blockchain. Because they already have the testnet, and remember quite a while back ago, they were talking about how they're planning to launch the mainnet in Q1 of 2026. So, in my perspective, when it comes to something like that, could it be that? Unless they maybe have something else in the works, who knows, that I'm not aware of. But I'm kind of hypothetically assuming it's probably maybe Goliath. It's layer 1 blockchain, but yeah, only time will tell. Because oftentimes people like to tell me, well, Onyx isn't really doing much even right now. But I would arguably say that even though XCN was doing a lot better back in January when the market cap was around a billion, whereas right now we're around, like, 80% lower than that, basically, in terms of market cap, right? But I'm just saying, even still, despite that, right now, I think that Onyx is doing more than back then in terms of the things that they're maybe doing behind the scenes. Why do I feel that way? Well, it's because if we take a look at not too long ago, we had seen the testnet, right, when it comes to Goliath. It's layer 1 blockchain. But back when XCN kind of had more attention than right now, I feel like there was really nothing that I could latch onto fundamentally. Like, I just felt like it gave me a vibe of like somewhat this miniature version of Stellar, I would say. But it wasn't really anything like, oh wow, Onyx is doing this or doing that. Not really. A lot of this stuff that I feel like I kind of looked forward to when it comes to Onyx was after XCN had a pullback from a market cap of around a billion. And I feel like stuff like this could maybe factor in to the fundamentals of Onyx later on, if maybe we do see an altcoin season. Because we're approaching 2026 and we haven't really seen much for the altcoin space, generally speaking, in 2025, also 2024. Like, we saw some moments of brilliance, I would say, for some projects out there, but it doesn't give me the vibe of like a 2021 type of altcoin season. Will we ever see one during this cycle? I mean, some people think maybe not, some people think maybe hypothetically yes. I mean, it really depends. But personally, for me, whatever it is, I want to stay patient and I'm going to be just literally doing what I've been doing, which is just, again, waiting. Because in my perspective, when it comes to something like Onyx, I get it. It's not the most interesting project out there, but if I was looking for, let's say, a fun project, something that has a meme type of vibe, of course, I would not take a look at something like Onyx. But that's not the point when it comes to me in this case. I'm looking more so for a project within the space of global trade and finance. Why? It's because it's a niche, which I think is hypothetically pretty well known because of Stellar and stuff like that. But then it doesn't seem like to me there's this definitive sort of, I guess, other options beyond that. Like, so far, the only kind of definitive option beyond something like Stellar, a lot of people would arguably say, is XDC. However, historically, it doesn't seem to be like, 10, 20, 30, 40 type of competitive options within that space. Like, even as of right now, arguably, I would say that there's pretty much 7 well-known projects within the space of global trade and finance, but that's not too many, at least within this space. I'm not talking about like in the grand scheme of things, I'm just saying within this space. This is why I'm still looking into something like Onyx. If, let's say, there was 20 major competitors when it comes to the space of global trade and finance within this space, maybe I could not believe in Onyx, right? I mean, maybe at that point there could be other hypothetical options. But because there's just not that many, I just don't have that many to choose from. That's my perspective. It's like, for instance, if we take a look at like the newest iPhone 17 Pro Max, there's like that silver color, and then there's orange, and then there's dark blue, right? Like, that's not that many options. So if I'm choosing that, like, automatically, if I don't try to like use a case or try to wrap the, you know, phone using like a D brand skin or something like that, like, that's not that many options, right? So then automatically I'm just having to choose from 3 hypothetical options. In this case, there's a little bit more than something like that, but that's just the analogy I would use. But besides that, I think there's like 7 that are pretty popular, but it doesn't seem to be that many for this space. So that's why I'm still, I guess, not giving up when it comes to Onyx. Now, I've already mentioned in my previous videos what I think those 7 competitive players are, I would say, within this space, but I'm going to mention it again nonetheless. Like, of course, we know that Stellar is number 2, XDC is number 3, and I think number 4, arguably, is maybe something like Onyx or not something like Zebec. I think it's a toss-up, right? It's between either of those two, but then it's not much difference. It's like either 4 or 5, but besides that, either way, I think Onyx is arguably, to me, in my mind, like a top 5 in terms of popularity within its own niche. But besides that, like 6, I would say is like a toss-up between XPR or something like Swiftcoin, so they're like either 6 or 7, right? But then I don't think there's like over 10 that I'm thinking about. That's just my perspective. If I think about layer 1 blockchains, it's easy to name over 10. If I take a look at also some other sectors out there, I mean, it's easy to name over 10 as well. Like, for instance, in the case of memes. But then in this case, it just doesn't seem to be that many, which I find pretty surprising considering how this is like a pretty well-known niche, right, when it comes to global chain finance. But besides that point, I feel like when it comes to Onyx, people like to say, well, it's getting left behind by something like Zebec. Well, not really, I guess. I mean, sure, XCN has had a bigger pullback in the past year when compared to ZBCN, but in terms of market cap, they're both still hovering at like, around that near 200 million range. So it's not like they're that far off, in my perspective, from one another. Also, on top of that, when it comes to Onyx, my kind of perception is that, sure, they don't necessarily update as much as something like Zebec, but who knows what they're doing behind the scenes? That's my perspective. Because when it comes to some other projects out there, they just can't automatically announce everything that they're doing. Maybe sometimes they have like a partnership where they can't disclose of it or something like that. I mean, who knows, right? So this is why, sure, Zebec hasn't had the pullback that Onyx had in the past year. Sure, something like Zebec seems to be updating a little bit more. But then at the same time, I'm still staying patient because I feel like Onyx is not that far left behind. And in terms of popularity, historically, I would say it seems to be a little bit more popular actually than something like Zebec, even though ZBCN is holding up a little bit better actually in the past year. So I just haven't given up when it comes to this. Now, what will they do beyond launching their layer 1 blockchain? I mean, there's a lot of hypothetical possibilities. There's no way for me to know right now. But that seems to be the thing that if they could actually follow through with that, I would find it to be pretty impressive for me because some other projects out there, they don't really follow through with what they want to do, basically, right? So if they could do that here, it would be a thumbs up for me in terms of what I think about that. But in terms of the performance of it, I mean, that's a totally different case. That's going to have to wait for quite a while. Granted, we are hypothetically around 48 times lower than 25 cents right now when it comes to XCN. But besides that, if they could actually launch, right, again, the mainnet, if they could actually, maybe have it done in Q1 of 2026, in which they're planning to do it at that time, I mean, we'll wait and see if that does happen. But if they could actually do that, and if, let's say, altcoins do start, doing something again, maybe, or maybe let's say there's a hypothetical altcoin season, who knows? What could that mean for some Onyx, which launched in this make-believe scenario, right? The mainnet of their layer 1 blockchain, and then let's say there's a change in the market overall when it comes to altcoins. What could that be at that point? Only time will tell, but, I wouldn't be surprised if it did something at least. I'm still staying patient, but yeah, I mean, they talk about 2026, so I wanted to make a video about that real quick because we are approaching 2026. I mean, we are basically, I guess, in the middle of December. So this is why I wanted to talk about this and kind of give my thoughts as to what I think Onyx means by this, I would say, post that they made, right, about 2026. So yeah, I want to say thank you for watching. It's Willie the Captain. I hope you all have a nice day, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.